Every strange experience you felt but never understood. There are certain experiences that almost everyone has, but barely anyone knows how to describe. Moments where reality feels slightly wrong, where a feeling becomes so specific it almost hurts, where something familiar suddenly feels unfamiliar, or something random feels weirdly meaningful. Most people never learn the names for these experiences. They just feel them, maybe get unsettled by them, and move on. But the human mind creates strange patterns like this all the time. Some of them are beautiful, some are unsettling, and some can make you feel like your own reality has shifted for just a few seconds. So, here are 8 strange human experiences you've probably felt before, but never fully understood. The first is déjà vu. You know that weird moment where something happening right now feels like it's happened before? Maybe it's a conversation, a movement, a room, or just the exact feeling of the moment itself. You know, logically, that this exact situation hasn't happened before, and yet it feels weirdly familiar anyway. That's what makes déjà vu so unsettling. It doesn't feel like normal memory. It feels like the present moment has somehow slipped into the wrong category and been labeled as something you've already lived through. And the strangest part? It's how convincing it feels. For a few seconds, your brain seems completely sure that this has happened before, even if you know it hasn't. It's like reality echoes, just once. Pareidolia. Then there's pareidolia. This is the reason people see faces in clouds, shapes in shadows, or expressions in objects that obviously aren't alive. A backpack can look worried. A building can look angry. A stain on a wall can suddenly look like a person staring back at you. Pareidolia happens because your brain is built to find patterns. And more than that, it's especially built to recognize faces. So when the visual information is vague or random, your mind doesn't just shrug and ignore it. It tries to complete the picture. It fills in the blanks. It turns chaos into something recognizable. And honestly, that's part of what makes it so fascinating. You're not just looking at the world, you're constantly interpreting it. Sometimes so aggressively that your brain would rather invent meaning than leave something meaningless. Now imagine the opposite of déjà vu. Instead of something new feeling familiar, something familiar suddenly feels strange. That's called jamais vu. Maybe you've written a word over and over again, and suddenly it stops looking real. It starts to look fake, almost ridiculous, like it shouldn't even exist. Or maybe you've looked at a place you know well, and for just a split second, it feels oddly foreign. That's jamais vu. And what makes it so strange is that it reveals how fragile familiarity really is. We tend to think recognition is automatic, that if we've seen something enough times, our brain will always process it normally. But that's not really true. Recognition is something your mind actively creates, and every now and then, that smooth sense of certainty slips. When it does, even the most normal thing in the world can feel weirdly disconnected from you. A word, a face, a room. Still the same thing, but no longer feeling like the same thing. Some strange experiences don't affect how the world looks, they affect how one person starts to matter far too much. That's limerence. Limerence is what happens when attraction becomes fixation. It's not just liking someone, it's mentally orbiting them. You replay conversations, you overanalyze texts, you notice tiny changes in tone. A delayed reply can ruin your mood. And a small sign of affection can make your entire day feel different. What makes limerence so intense is that it turns possibility into emotional fuel. You start living inside hope, uncertainty, and interpretation. Every glance means something. Every silence means something. Everything feels loaded. And because it's so intense, people often mistake it for love. But limerence usually feels less grounded than love, more obsessive, more unstable, more dependent on being chosen. It's not just emotion. It feels like your attention has been captured. and won't let go. Derealization. Then there's derealization, which might be one of the hardest experiences to explain if you've never felt it yourself. Because when derealization happens, the world doesn't necessarily look different. Nothing obvious changes. The room is still the room, the people are still the people. Everything is technically normal, and yet it doesn't feel normal. The world can start to feel distant, flat, foggy, dreamlike, or strangely artificial. Some people describe it as feeling like they're behind glass. Others say it feels like reality has lost its emotional texture. And that's what makes it so disturbing. You're not confused about where you are. You still know what's real, but your connection to reality feels weakened somehow, like you're present, but not fully inside the moment, like life is happening around you, but not landing with its usual depth. It's one of the strangest things the mind can do, making reality feel unreal without changing reality at all. Not all strange experiences are disturbing, though. Some are weirdly beautiful. One of those is Sonder. Sonder is the sudden realization that every stranger around you has a life as rich, emotional, and complicated as your own. You might be walking through a city, sitting on a train, waiting in traffic, or watching people pass by, and then it hits you. Every person you see has memories you'll never know about, conversations you'll never hear, private fears, favorite songs, regrets, plans, people they miss, versions of themselves they no longer are. And for a moment, the world changes. Strangers stop feeling like background. They start feeling like entire universes moving past you. That's what makes Sonder so powerful. It stretches your perspective. It reminds you that your inner life isn't the only one burning this brightly. Everyone is carrying something invisible. And for a brief second, you can feel that. Then we get to one of the most frightening normal human experiences: sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis happens when your mind wakes up before your body fully does. So for a few moments, you're aware but unable to move. You can see the room. You can think. You may even try to speak, but your body doesn't respond. And that's already terrifying on its own. But what makes sleep paralysis even more disturbing is that many people also feel a sense of presence, like someone or something is in the room with them. Some feel pressure on their chest. Some see shadowy figures. Some hear sounds. Some just feel pure, overwhelming dread. And even if you know what sleep paralysis is, that knowledge doesn't always help in the moment. Because fear like that isn't intellectual. It's primal. You're awake. You're trapped. And your brain is trying to make sense of helplessness in the dark. No wonder so many people describe it like a haunting. And finally, there's Hiraeth. Hiraeth is a deep longing for a home you can't return to, or maybe never truly had. It's often described as a kind of homesickness, but that doesn't quite capture it, because Hiraeth isn't always about a literal place. Sometimes it's about a time in your life, a feeling, a version of yourself, a kind of warmth or belonging that feels distant now, maybe permanently. What makes Hiraeth so powerful is that it carries both tenderness and grief at the same time. You're not just remembering something, you're aching toward it. And sometimes you can't even explain exactly what you're missing. You just feel the shape of its absence. That's why words like this matter. Because some emotions stay vague and heavy for years until someone finally gives them language. And once a feeling has a name, it doesn't necessarily hurt less, but it can start to feel less lonely. The human mind is full of experiences like these, moments that feel too eerie, too specific, too emotional, or too strange to explain easily. But maybe that's part of what makes them so fascinating. They're reminders that being human is not just about thinking clearly or seeing reality accurately. It's also about misreading, longing, projecting, remembering, fearing, and feeling things more deeply than we know how to describe. And sometimes, learning the name for an experience doesn't make it disappear. It just makes you realize you were never the only one feeling it. Thank you for your interest, and check out my other videos also.